The council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystalline walls and gravity-defying architecture. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered in their assigned breathing zones, each atmosphere carefully separated by shimmering force fields. The air buzzed with tension, thick enough to taste across every environmental barrier. Ambassador Threk of the Karnathi Empire flexed his forearms, the metallic scales on his body reflecting the soft blue light of the chamber. He had fought in 3 galactic wars and survived 2 planetary conquests. Nothing in the known universe frightened him. Until now. "The humans are coming," Counselor Veshna announced, her serpentine body coiling tighter around her hover platform. Their ship will dock within the hour." A collective shudder passed through the assembly. The Yarthans, massive bear-like creatures covered in thick fur, growled low in their throats. The Selenids, floating jellyfish beings with transparent bodies full of bioluminescent organs, pulsed nervous colors of deep purple and sickly green. "We should have never invited them," hissed General Kravik, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Death Worlders, every single one of them from a death world." Threk had reviewed the files on Earth dozens of times. The data was horrifying. A planet where the very atmosphere was corrosive, where liquid dihydrogen monoxide fell from the sky in massive quantities, where the surface was constantly bombarded by radiation from their yellow star. The temperature swings alone would kill most species. And the wildlife. By the ancestors, the wildlife. The planet was covered in apex predators. Great-scaled reptiles called crocodiles that could tear through armored plating with their jaws. Massive felines called tigers that hunted in complete silence. Creatures called bears that could run at terrifying speeds despite their bulk. And the plants were equally hostile, some even consuming flesh. But humans were the worst of all. They were pursuit predators with eyes positioned for hunting. They could track prey across vast distances, following for days without rest. Their bodies produced their own chemical weapons in the form of adrenaline that could let them ignore fatal injuries. They formed pack bonds so strong they would die for each other without hesitation. And they had conquered their entire planet. "So the treaty requires we allow them to present their case for membership," Veshna reminded the council. "We voted on this." "Before we knew what they were," Kravik spat. The intelligence reports had been even worse than the planetary surveys. Humans had clawed their way from primitive tribes to spacefaring civilization in an impossibly short time. They fought wars with weapons that could crack continents. They built machines that could think. They had even split the atom and harnessed its power, something most species only achieved after millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of peaceful development. "They're bringing a companion creature," announced Tekla, the insectoid record keeper. Her compound eyes reflected thousands of tiny images of the worried council members. According to their transmission, it's a traditional gesture of peace among their kind. "A companion?" Threk felt his combat implants activate involuntarily, an automatic response to perceived threat. "What kind of weapon are they disguising?" The images appeared on the central holo display. The humans had sent ahead visuals of their companion creature as a courtesy. The council chamber fell absolutely silent. "That's it?" Veshna's voice was barely a whisper. "That's their war beast?" The creature on the display was small, perhaps the size of a celandid's feeding polyp. It was covered in fur, with a rounded face and disproportionately large eyes. Its ears were pointed triangles on top of its head. It appeared to have 4 legs and a tail. "The humans call it a cat," Tekla read from the transmission. "Species name, Felis catus. It's a domesticated companion animal." "Domesticated?" General Kravik leaned forward, his multiple eyes studying the image. "What did they domesticate it from?" Tekla's antennae quivered as she pulled up the biological data. According to the genetic records, cats descended from ambush predators on Earth, small hunters that killed prey animals with bites to the neck. They have retractable claws, enhanced night vision, and can detect frequencies of sound that most species cannot perceive. "It's a predator," Threk said flatly. "Of course it is. Everything on that cursed planet is a predator." "But look at the size," one of the Yarthan delegates rumbled. "It's tiny, barely a threat to anything larger than—" "What do those measurements mean? 2 kilograms? Earth gravity is significantly higher than standard," Tekla explained. "What seems small there would be quite different here." The council began arguing among themselves, voices rising in a cacophony of different languages and communication methods. Some wanted to cancel the meeting entirely. Others argued that showing fear would be worse than facing the humans directly. A few brave souls suggested that perhaps the humans had been misjudged. Threk understood their fear. Every species in the council had evolved on worlds that were safe by galactic standards. Predators existed, yes, but they were rare and manageable. Most intelligent species had evolved from prey animals or scavengers or herbivores. The very idea of a species that evolved from pack-hunting persistence predators was the stuff of nightmares. The warning alarm chimed softly through the chamber. "They're here," Veshna announced. "The human vessel has docked." Through the transparent walls of the council chamber, they could see the human ship settling into its moorings. It was smaller than expected, sleek and functional, with none of the elaborate decorations most species used. It looked like what it was, a tool designed by engineers who valued efficiency over aesthetics. "Should we activate the defensive systems?" Kravik asked, his hand hovering over his control panel. "No," Threk decided, though his own combat implants were running through threat assessment protocols. "We greet them as we would any other potential member species, but everyone stay alert." The airlock hissed open, and the humans entered. There were 2 of them. They moved with the fluid grace that came from living on a high-gravity world, each step precise and controlled. They wore simple uniforms of dark blue with various symbols and patches that likely indicated rank and affiliation. Their forward-facing eyes scanned the room quickly, professionally, taking in every detail and potential threat in seconds. The taller one stepped forward. "Greetings, honored council. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. This is my colleague, Dr. James Okafor." Her voice was pleasant, warm even, with none of the aggression Threk had expected. She smiled, showing her teeth. Threk's combat computer immediately flagged it as a threat display, but he forced himself to remain calm. The intelligence reports had mentioned that humans showed teeth as a sign of friendliness, bizarre as that seemed. "We are honored by your invitation to present Earth's case for joining the Galactic Council," Captain Chen continued. We've brought a traditional gift, as is our custom." Dr. Okafor moved forward, carrying a container. It was transparent, and inside, the council could see the creature from the images. The cat. It was even smaller in person, sitting calmly in its carrier. Its fur was a mix of orange and white, with darker stripes across its body. The large eyes were a striking green color, watching the assembled aliens with what appeared to be mild curiosity. "This is Mr. Whiskers," Captain Chen said, her voice full of affection. "He's been our ship's companion for 3 years. We thought he might help you understand more about Earth and its people." "You brought a predator to a diplomatic meeting?" Kravik couldn't help himself. Captain Chen's smile widened. "Mr. Whiskers? Oh, he's harmless. Well, mostly harmless. He did catch a maintenance robot once, but we've talked to him about that." She opened the carrier. Every alien in the room tensed. Threk's hand moved to his sidearm. The Yarthans rose to their full height, ready to fight or flee. The Selenides flashed bright warning colors. The cat stepped out delicately, placing each paw with careful precision. It looked around the council chamber, tail swishing slowly. Then it sat down, wrapped its tail around its paws, and began to clean its face with one foot. Nothing happened. The cat continued its grooming, apparently unconcerned with the 47 different species watching it with various combinations of fear and fascination. "He's quite friendly," Dr. Okafor said, kneeling down beside the animal. He extended his hand, and the cat bumped its head against his fingers. A strange rumbling sound filled the immediate area. "That's purring. It means he's content." "What does it eat?" Veshna asked, her voice barely controlled. "Cat food mostly," Captain Chen replied. "Processed meat and nutrients. He's quite fond of tuna fish, though we try to limit that as a treat." "Meat," Kravik said darkly. "Of course." "Well, yes," Captain Chen acknowledged. "Cats are obligate carnivores, but Mr. Whiskers has never hunted anything larger than a toy mouse. And that was synthetic." The cat finished cleaning its face and stood up. It began to walk across the chamber floor, moving with liquid grace. Several council members backed away from their force field barriers as it approached. The cat seemed to notice this and changed direction, wandering toward Threk instead. Threk stood his ground, though every instinct screamed at him to retreat. This was a test. He knew it was a test. The cat sat down in front of the barrier separating them and looked up at Threk with those impossibly large green eyes. Then it opened its mouth and made a small sound. "Morale." "He likes you," Captain Chen observed. "That's his friendly greeting." "What are its capabilities?" Threk asked, trying to sound professional rather than terrified. "Your data mentioned retractable claws?" "Oh, yes." Dr. Okafor gently picked up the cat, holding it in a way that suggested long practice and comfort. "May I demonstrate? I promise it's harmless." At Threk's reluctant nod, the doctor carefully pressed on the cat's paw. Small curved claws extended from the toe pads, sharp and white. "These are for climbing and self-defense," Dr. Okafor explained. "In the wild, their ancestors used them for hunting and climbing trees. Mr. Whiskers mostly uses them to destroy furniture and occasionally my favorite jacket." The cat made another sound, this one longer and more insistent. "Mro." "He's complaining about being held," Captain Chen translated with clear amusement. "He'd like to be put down now." Dr. Okafor complied, setting the cat back on the floor. It immediately walked to the nearest wall and began rubbing its face against it, leaving scent markers from glands in its cheeks. "Why would you domesticate a predator?" one of the Yarthan delegates asked. The question everyone wanted answered. Captain Chen and Dr. Okafor exchanged glances. "We didn't, really," Chen admitted. "The historical evidence suggests cats essentially domesticated themselves. About 10,000 years ago, when humans began farming and storing grain, rodents became a problem. Cats showed up to hunt the rodents. We gave them food and shelter. They kept the pests away. Over time, we just chose to live together." "You formed a symbiotic relationship with an apex predator," Veshna said slowly. "For pest control." "Well, yes," Dr. Okafor confirmed. "Though now they're mostly companions, pets, family members. There are estimated to be over 600 million domestic cats on Earth." 600 million, Threk repeated, his mind struggling with the number. "They're very popular," Captain Chen said simply. The cat had completed its inspection of the wall and now sat down to clean its back leg, balancing on one foot with the other extended straight up in a display of flexibility that seemed to defy physics. It's grooming itself," Tekla observed, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "The behavior appears compulsive." "Cats are very clean animals," Dr. Okafor explained. "They spend about 30 to 50% of their waking hours grooming. It helps regulate body temperature, distributes skin oils, and reduces stress." "Stress?" General Kravik leaned forward. The creature experiences stress? Of course, Captain Chen said, looking surprised by the question. All animals do, don't they? Mr. Whiskers gets stressed when his routine changes or when we're in jump space. He doesn't like the weird gravity fluctuations. Threk watched as the cat finished its grooming and began to explore the chamber more thoroughly, sniffing at various points along the walls and floor. It showed no aggression, no signs of the killer instinct he'd expected. It just looked like a small, curious animal investigating a new environment. Captain Chen, Veshina spoke formally, I believe I speak for the council when I say this is not what we expected. What did you expect? Chen asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. Monsters, Threk answered before he could stop himself. We expected monsters. Your planet is classified as a Class 12 death world. The files detail thousands of species that could kill any being in this room in seconds. Your own species evolved as persistence pack hunters. You've waged wars that consumed continents. You've built weapons that can end worlds. And you bring us a small, furry creature that cleans itself and makes small noises. Captain Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled again, and in this time Threk noticed it looked sad. Ambassador Threk, with respect, I think you've misunderstood what humanity is. Yes, Earth is dangerous. Yes, we evolved in a challenging environment. Yes, we've done terrible things in our history. But that's not all we are. She gestured to the cat, which had found a warm spot near a heat vent and was settling down for a nap. We're also the species that looked at a small predator and decided to make it part of our family. We're the ones who spent thousands of years breeding them not to be better killers, but to be better companions. Dr. Okafor nodded. We could have brought one of our military robots. We could have brought samples of our weapons technology. We could have tried to intimidate you, but we brought Mr. Whiskers instead, because we thought he represented us better than any of those things. The cat yawned, showing tiny sharp teeth and a pink tongue, then curled into a ball and closed its eyes. The question you should ask, Captain Chen continued, is not what monsters we might be, but what kind of species chooses to live with such a creature. What does it say about us that we welcome predators into our homes, that we feed them and care for them and love them? The council chamber was silent except for the soft rumbling of the cat's purr, audible now through the audio pickups. Threk stared at the small creature, so peacefully asleep in a room full of alien beings, apparently without a care in the universe. I don't understand, Veshina finally admitted. You're Deathworlders. Everything in our intelligence suggests you should be aggressive, territorial, dangerous. But you bring us peace offerings in the form of sleeping predators. Maybe, Captain Chen suggested gently, your intelligence focused on the wrong things. Yes, we can be dangerous, but we can also be kind. We can be protective. We can form bonds across species barriers. We can choose cooperation over conflict. She paused. Though I'll admit, Mr. Whiskers does occasionally choose conflict, usually around 3 in the morning when he decides it's playtime. Several council members made sounds that might have been nervous laughter. The council will need time to deliberate, Threk announced, finding his voice. This is not what we prepared for. We understand, Captain Chen said. We're happy to wait. Though if you don't mind, could we get some water for Mr. Whiskers? He gets thirsty after naps. As the humans were escorted to a waiting area, their cat sleeping peacefully in his carrier once more, the council erupted into debate. Threk watched them go, his mind racing with new calculations and considerations. The galaxy had expected monsters. The humans had brought a housecat instead. And somehow, that was more unsettling than any show of force could have been. Because it meant the humans were more complex, more unpredictable, and more interesting than anyone had imagined. And as Threk had learned in 3 wars and 2 conquests, Interesting was always more dangerous than simple. But perhaps, he thought as he watched the small cat being carried away by its human companions, dangerous was not the same as bad. Perhaps the galaxy needed a little more interesting in it, and the real question was whether the Council was ready for what that would mean. The waiting room assigned to the human delegation was comfortable by galactic standards, though Captain Sarah Chen suspected it had been designed with species far different from humans in mind. The gravity was slightly lower than Earth normal, the temperature a bit too warm, and the seating appeared to be designed for beings with very different anatomies. Still, they made it work. Mr. Whiskers had other opinions about the accommodations. "Morale!" he complained, pawing at the door to his carrier. "I know, buddy," Dr. James Okafor said, opening the carrier door. "But you handled that well. Very diplomatic." The cat emerged and immediately began investigating every corner of the room, sniffing at walls and furniture with intense concentration. His tail pointed straight up, a sign that he was feeling confident and curious rather than threatened. "Do you think it went well?" Okafor asked, settling onto one of the strange chairs that seemed designed for someone with backward-bending knees. Chen shrugged, watching Mr. Whiskers discover a plant in the corner that was definitely not from Earth. The cat sniffed it carefully, then sneezed. "Hard to say. They were terrified when we arrived." "You noticed that too?" "James, I'm pretty sure half of them were ready to shoot us the moment we walked in." She smiled slightly. "Did you see that big-scaled fellow with 4 arms? His hand was on his weapon the entire time." "Ambassador Threk of the Karnathi Empire," Okafor confirmed, pulling up files on his data pad. "Military background, fought in multiple conflicts. Probably saw us as a threat assessment problem. And then we gave him Mr. Whiskers to assess," Chen said with a grin. The cat in question had finished his investigation of the plant and was now standing on his hind legs, pawing at something on the wall. It appeared to be some kind of environmental control panel. Within seconds, the temperature in the room began to drop. "Mr. Whiskers, no," Okafor said, gently pulling the cat away from the controls. "We don't adjust alien technology without permission." The cat responded by climbing onto Okafor's lap, circling 3 times, and settling down with his paws tucked under his chest. The rumbling purr started almost immediately. "You know," Chen mused, "Admiral Rodriguez thought we were crazy bringing him." "The Admiral thinks everyone is crazy unless they're running military drills," Okafor replied, absently stroking the cat's head. "But she did approve it. Only after you showed her the psychological profiles. The part about how cats reduce human stress and improve mental health during long space voyages. All true facts. Also true, you just wanted to bring your cat to meet aliens." Okafor grinned. "Can you blame me? When else will Mr. Whiskers get to be an interstellar diplomat?" The cat purred louder, as if agreeing with this assessment of his importance. Outside the waiting room, they could hear muffled sounds of what seemed to be intense discussion. Voices rose and fell in various alien languages and communication methods. Occasionally, something would thump or crash, and suggesting the debate was getting animated. "They're arguing about us," Chen observed. "Probably whether we're going to eat them," Okafor said dryly. "We did mention that Mr. Whiskers eats meat. I think General Kravik nearly fainted when you said that." They both chuckled, but Chen's expression grew more serious. "James, do you think we did the right thing? I mean, we're trying to join a galactic community that's clearly afraid of us. Maybe we should have been more aggressive, shown strength." Okafor was quiet for a moment, his hand still moving in gentle strokes along Mr. Whiskers' back. The cat's eyes were half closed in contentment. "Sarah, I've studied over 200 different first contact scenarios from their historical records," he finally said. Do you know what happens when a new species tries to join by showing military strength? They get rejected? Worse, they get categorized, boxed into a role. If we'd shown up with weapons and military displays, we'd become the warrior species forever. They'd never trust us. Every decision we made would be viewed through that lens. We'd be the scary humans in the corner that everyone watches nervously. As opposed to now, where we're the weird humans who bring cats to diplomatic meetings? Exactly, Okafor said with a smile. Weird is better than scary. Weird is interesting. Weird makes them curious instead of defensive. The door chimed softly. A mechanical voice announced, "The council requests the presence of Dr. Okafor. Captain Chen may wait here." Okafor looked surprised. "Just me? That's unusual." "Take Mr. Whiskers," Chen suggested. "I think he's your secret weapon at this point." Okafor gently scooped up the cat, who protested the interruption of his nap with a small merp sound, but didn't resist. He draped himself over Okafor's shoulder like a furry scarf, tail dangling down. "Wish me luck," Okafor said. "You don't need it. You've got the ultimate diplomat right there." When Okafor entered the council chamber, he found it very different from before. The formal arrangement had been broken up. Many of the council members had moved closer to the center, creating a more intimate setting. Only about a third of the original group remained. Ambassador Threk stood at the center, his forearms crossed in what might have been a defensive posture or simply his resting state, and it was hard to tell with alien body language. "Dr. Okafor," Threk greeted him. "Thank you for coming. We've sent the others to continue formal deliberations. This is a different kind of meeting." "I'm happy to help however I can," Okafor replied. Mr. Whiskers adjusted his position on Okafor's shoulder, draping himself more comfortably. "We have questions," said Counselor Veshina, her serpentine body uncoiling slightly. "About your companion creature, and about humans. We're trying to understand the disconnect." "What disconnect is that?" Okafor asked, genuinely curious. It was Tekla, the insectoid record keeper, who answered. "Every data point we have suggests humans should be aggressive, territorial, and dangerous. And yet, you form bonds with predators. You speak of your weapons technology in apologetic tones. You seem genuinely distressed that we might fear you." "Ah," Okafor said. He moved to a seat that looked somewhat human-compatible and sat down, adjusting Mr. Whiskers to his lap. The cat immediately began kneading his paws into Okafor's leg, claws extending and retracting rhythmically. "May I tell you a story?" The assembled aliens waited. About 12,000 years ago on Earth, humans were hunter-gatherers. We lived in small groups, moving from place to place, hunting animals and gathering plants. We were very good at it. Maybe too good at it. We hunted several species to extinction. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. But then something changed. We invented agriculture. We started staying in one place, growing crops, storing food. And with stored food came a problem. Rodents. Mice and rats that would eat our grain and spread disease. Mr. Whiskers chose this moment to yawn enormously, showing all his tiny teeth, before settling back down. Around this time, small wildcats lived near human settlements. They weren't pets. They were wild predators. But they hunted the same rodents that plagued us. So humans started leaving out food for the cats. The cats started staying closer to humans. Over generations, the boldest, friendliest cats had the most success. They got more food, had more kittens. Those kittens were even bolder and friendlier. Natural selection toward domestication, Tekla observed, her antennae quivering with interest. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. We didn't just domesticate them to be useful. We domesticated them to be companions. We bred them for traits we found appealing. Specific fur patterns, certain vocalizations, behavioral traits that made them better friends, not better hunters. Okafor scratched Mr. Whiskers under the chin, and the cat's purr grew louder. This cat has claws that could damage tissue, teeth that could deliver painful bites, reflexes faster than human reaction time, but he uses those abilities to catch toy mice, climb cat trees, occasionally knock things off tables to watch them fall. Why? Asked one of the Yarthan delegates, the question coming out as a confused rumble. Why would apex predators choose to make a companion of another predator? Because we're social creatures, Okafor replied simply. Yes, we evolved as hunters, but we also evolved to form bonds, to work in groups, to care for others. Those traits were just as important to our survival as our hunting skills. Maybe more important. He paused, organizing his thoughts. Look, I'm a xenobiologist. I've studied evolutionary patterns across multiple species now, thanks to the data you've shared with us. Do you know what I've learned? The council waited. Intelligence doesn't evolve in a vacuum. It evolves because social complexity demands it. The smartest species are almost always the most social ones. We needed big brains to navigate complex group dynamics, to cooperate, to predict what others might do. Hunting was just one application of those skills. Mr. Whiskers rolled onto his back in Okafor's lap, exposing his belly in a display of complete trust. Several aliens leaned forward to get a better look. You can touch him if you'd like, Okafor offered. He's very friendly. There was a long moment of hesitation. Then, slowly, the Counselor Veshna moved her platform closer. She extended one delicate appendage through the force field barrier. He won't bite? She asked nervously. Not unless you're threatening him, Okafor assured her. And even then, he'd probably just run away. Mr. Whiskers is a lover, not a fighter. The appendage touched the cat's fur gently. Mr. Whiskers tilted his head to look at Veshna with his large green eyes, then bumped his head against her appendage. Oh, Veshna breathed. He's so soft and warm. What is that sound he's making? Purring, Okafor explained. It's a sign of contentment. Scientists think it evolved as a way for kittens to communicate with their mothers, but adult cats purr when they're happy or sometimes when they're trying to comfort themselves. Another council member approached, then another. Soon, several aliens were taking turns carefully petting the cat, who seemed perfectly content to be the center of attention. This is remarkable, Tekla said, using one delicate leg to stroke Mr. Whiskers' head. I've never interacted with a predator species like this. In our world, predators are to be avoided or eliminated. On Earth, we live alongside dozens of predator species, Okafor said. Cats, dogs, ferrets, even some birds of prey. We've domesticated several of them. We keep others in protected reserves. We study them, document them, try to ensure they survive. Why? Threk asked. He hadn't approached the cat, but his posture had relaxed somewhat. Why preserve predators? They're dangerous. Because they're part of the ecosystem, Okafor replied. Remove the predators, and the prey animals overpopulate. And they eat all the vegetation. The whole system collapses. We learned that lesson the hard way several times. He shifted Mr. Whiskers slightly, and the cat stretched out even more, clearly enjoying the attention from multiple aliens. But beyond that, we preserve them because they have value in themselves. Because a world without tigers or wolves or sharks would be a poorer world. Because diversity makes ecosystems stronger. Because beauty and danger can coexist. You find predators beautiful? Veshna asked, still gently stroking the cat. Many humans do, Okafor confirmed. Tigers are considered one of the most beautiful animals on Earth. Sharks are fascinating to us. Even venomous snakes have their admirers. We make documentaries about them, study them, work to protect them from extinction. Your species is very strange, General Kravik observed, though his tone was less hostile than before. Probably, Okafor agreed cheerfully, but I'd argue that our strangeness is our strength. We don't see things in simple categories, friend or enemy, useful or dangerous. We see complexity, nuance, potential. Mr. Whiskers chose this moment to decide he'd had enough attention. He rolled to his feet, stretched in a long arc that showed off his flexibility, and hopped down from Okafor's lap. He began walking around the council chamber, weaving between alien representatives with complete confidence. "Is he supposed to be doing that?" Threk asked, watching the cat approach his position. "He's exploring," Okafor said. "Cats are curious. It's one of their defining traits." Mr. Whiskers sat down in front of Threk and looked up at him. Then he made a small chirping sound. "What does that mean?" Threk asked, not moving. "He's saying hello," Okafor translated. "He wants to know if you'll acknowledge him." Slowly, carefully, Threk extended one of his 4 hands. Mr. Whiskers sniffed it thoroughly, then rubbed his cheek against it, leaving scent markers. "He's marking you as safe," Okafor explained. "It's a compliment, really. He's decided you're part of his territory now." "I'm part of a cat's territory," Threk said slowly. "A human brought a small predator to a Galactic Council meeting, and now I'm part of that predator's territory." "When you put it that way, it does sound a bit absurd," Okafor admitted. To everyone's surprise, Threk made a sound that might have been laughter. "Dr. Okafor, I've fought in 3 wars. I've faced enemies that would give your worst nightmares nightmares. I've stared down war machines and bioweapons and things I can't even properly describe." He looked down at Mr. Whiskers, who had now decided that Threk's armored boot was an excellent scratching post. "And somehow, this tiny creature from your death world is teaching me more about humans than all our intelligence reports combined." "What is he teaching you?" Okafor asked. Threk was quiet for a moment, watching as Mr. Whiskers finished scratching and sat down to clean his paws. "That strength and gentleness are not opposites. That a species can be dangerous and kind at the same time. That humans chose to share their world with creatures like this, chose to care for them. I chose to love them." He paused. "It says something about a species, what they choose to love." "It does," Okafor agreed softly. One of the other council members spoke up, a being that looked like a floating crystal cluster. "Dr. Okafor, if we were to approve Earth's membership in the council, what would that mean? What would humans bring to the galaxy?" Okafor thought carefully before answering. "Honestly, I don't know exactly, but I can tell you what we hope to bring. We hope to bring our curiosity, our adaptability, our desire to understand and explore. We hope to share our perspectives, which are different from yours because we evolved in different circumstances." He gestured to Mr. Whiskers, who was now attempting to catch a particle of dust floating in a beam of light. "We hope to bring our ability to see beyond simple categories, to find value in unexpected places, to form bonds across impossible divides. We've done it with cats and dogs and horses and dozens of other species on our own planet. Maybe we can do it with you too." The council chamber was quiet, except for the soft sound of Mr. Whiskers padding across the floor, still chasing the dust particle. "The formal council will deliberate for several more hours," Veshna finally said. "But I think I can speak for those of us here when I say that our perspective has changed. We came here afraid of monsters. We're leaving having met something far more complex and interesting. Though I do have one more question," Tekla added, her antennae focused on the cat. "You said there are 600 million of these creatures on Earth? Give or take," Okafor confirmed. "And humans just live with them? In their homes?" "Most cat owners would say cats allow humans to live with them," Okafor said with a smile. "Cats have a reputation for being independent. They choose when they want attention and when they want to be left alone." As if to demonstrate this, Mr. Whiskers suddenly decided he was done with the council chamber. He walked directly back to Okafor, jumped into his lap, and curled up into a tight ball. "And now he's decided council time is over," Okafor said, "which probably means I should take him back to the waiting room." As Okafor stood, carefully cradling the sleepy cat, Threk spoke again. Doctor, one more thing. These other predators you domesticated. Dogs. What are they like? Oh, dogs, Okafor said, his face lighting up. Dogs are wonderful. They're descended from wolves, which are pack hunters. Much bigger than cats. More energetic. Incredibly loyal. Many humans consider them their best friends. More dangerous than cats? Potentially, yes. But also more eager to please humans. They've been bred for thousands of years to work with us, protect us, help us. Some are trained for rescue work. Some for guiding people who can't see. Some just for companionship. You domesticated wolf packs, Threk said flatly. Well, yes. Of course you did. I look forward to hearing about those too someday. As Okafor left with Mr. Whiskers, he heard the council members begin discussing among themselves, their voices carrying a different tone than before. Less fear, more curiosity. Less suspicion, more interest. Back in the waiting room, Captain Chen looked up from her datapad. How did it go? I think Mr. Whiskers just became Earth's most effective diplomat, Okafor replied, setting the sleeping cat gently into his carrier. Good, Chen said. Because I just received a message from Admiral Rodriguez. Apparently word is spreading through the galactic channels about the humans who brought a cat to a diplomatic meeting. We're getting inquiries from 17 different species who want to meet us. 17? And counting. Turns out the galaxy finds us very interesting. Okafor looked at the sleeping cat, curled peacefully in his carrier. You know what, Mr. Whiskers? I think you just changed the course of human history. The cat's only response was a soft snore. The formal vote came 3 days later. In that time, Mr. Whiskers had become something of a celebrity among the galactic delegates. Word had spread quickly about the small Earth predator who purred and demanded attention and seemed completely unconcerned by the presence of dozens of alien species. Captain Sarah Chen found it both amusing and slightly surreal that their diplomatic mission's success might hinge on a cat's personality. They're ready for us, Dr. James Okafor said, checking his communicator. Mr. Whiskers sat on his shoulder like a furry parrot, tail wrapped around Okafor's neck for balance. The cat had decided this was his preferred method of transportation and refused to be carried any other way. How do you think the vote will go? Chen asked as they walked through the corridors of the council station. Honestly, I have no idea. We've received visitors from 23 different species in the last 3 days. Some seemed fascinated, and some seemed confused. A few seemed downright disturbed by the entire concept of domesticated predators. Which ones were disturbed? Mostly the herbivore species who've never had to deal with predators beyond avoiding them, Okafor replied. The idea of voluntarily living with something that has claws and teeth is apparently very alien to them. Mr. Whiskers yawned, showing those very claws and teeth, then nuzzled against Okafor's ear. The council chamber was packed when they arrived. Not just the original 47 species, but what looked like representatives from dozens more. The gallery spaces were filled with observers, all wanting to witness the vote on whether humanity would join the galactic community. Ambassador Threk stood at the center, his forearms spread in what Chen had learned was a gesture of welcome. Captain Chen, Dr. Okafor, thank you for your patience during our deliberations, and thank you to Mr. Whiskers for his informal diplomacy over the past few days. Several council members made sounds that might have been laughter or approval. The council has discussed Earth's application extensively, Threk continued. We've reviewed your technological development, your cultural history, your biological makeup, and your potential contributions to the galactic community. We've also spent considerable time observing your interactions with your companion creature. Mr. Whiskers chose this moment to jump down from Okafor's shoulder and begin walking across the chamber floor, apparently bored with the proceedings. Before we proceed to the vote, Councillor Veshna said, her serpentine body coiled elegantly on her platform, We have questions. Not about your technology or your military capabilities. We have adequate data on those. We have questions about something else entirely. Of course, Chen replied. We're happy to answer anything. Dr. Okafor told us about cats, Veshna began, about how humans domesticated them, live with them, care for them. But in our subsequent research, we've discovered that cats are not the only predator species humans have chosen to keep as companions. That's correct, Chen confirmed. Dogs descended from wolves. Ferrets descended from wild polecats. Even some humans keep snakes, lizards, and birds of prey. All predators, all potentially dangerous. Veshna paused. We need to understand why. It's so contrary to every survival instinct most species have. Chen glanced at Okafor, who nodded encouragingly. She took a breath and began. I think it comes down to something fundamental about how humans see the world. We don't categorize things simply as safe or dangerous. We see potential. We see complexity. When ancient humans first encountered wolves, yes, they saw a predator. But they also saw intelligence, loyalty, pack behavior similar to our own. They saw the possibility of partnership. She walked closer to the center of the chamber, where Mr. Whiskers was investigating a particularly interesting spot on the floor. With cats, we saw independent hunters who could solve our rodent problems, but over time we saw more than that. We saw grace and beauty, we saw personalities, individual quirks that made each cat unique. We saw creatures who chose to be near us, even though they didn't need us for survival. Mr. Whiskers looked up at Chen and made a small mrp sound, as if commenting on her speech. That choice matters to us, Chen continued. A dog loves you because it's bred to love you, because thousands of years of evolution have made them dependent on human approval. But a cat? She knelt down, and Mr. Whiskers immediately walked over to rub against her hand. A cat stays because it wants to. A cat's affection is earned, not automatic, and somehow that makes it more meaningful. But they're still predators, General Kravik pointed out. They still have the capability to harm you. So do we, Chen replied simply. Humans are predators too, remember? We have that capability, but capability isn't the same as intent. Mr. Whiskers could scratch or bite. He has claws and teeth, but he chooses not to use them against us. We trust him, and he trusts us. That trust across species barriers is beautiful to us. Tekla, the insectoid record keeper, spoke up. But it's not just about individual relationships, is it? You mentioned protected reserves for wild predators, conservation efforts. You spend resources protecting creatures that are actively dangerous to you. We do, Okafor confirmed, stepping forward. Because we've learned that diversity makes ecosystems stronger. Every species, even predators, plays a role. Remove them, and the whole system suffers. Beyond that, we've learned that having different perspectives, different ways of solving problems, makes us stronger as a species. He picked up Mr. Whiskers, and who immediately draped himself over Okafor's arm like a furry rag. Living with cats has taught humans patience, because you can't force a cat to do anything. Living with dogs has taught us about unconditional love and loyalty. Living with horses taught us partnership with beings much stronger than we are. Each species we've formed bonds with has changed us, made us think differently. And you think the same would be true with us? Veshna asked softly. With alien species? I hope so, Chen said. Look, we know we're different from most of the species here. We evolved on a death world. We're comfortable with risks that terrify others. We think about predation and cooperation in ways that seem alien to you, but that's exactly why we should be part of this community. Because different perspectives solve different problems. She looked around the chamber at all the assembled species. You've built a peaceful, stable galactic civilization. That's incredible. But it's also homogeneous. Most of you evolved on safe worlds, from prey or scavenger species. You think in similar ways. You avoid conflict because conflict is inherently dangerous to you. And that's bad? Threk asked, though his tone suggested he was curious rather than offended. Not bad, Chen clarified, but limited. There are going to be challenges in the universe that require different kinds of thinking. Aggressive species that won't respond to your diplomatic approaches. Dangerous environments that need the kind of risk-taking you've been selected against. Problems that need predator solutions. Like what? Asked one of the Yarthan delegates. The Kornak swarm, for instance, Okafor said quietly. The chamber fell silent. The Kornak swarm was a cloud of aggressive, self-replicating machines that had been expanding through a remote sector for 200 years. No one had found a way to stop it. The Council's approach had been to evacuate ahead of it and hope it eventually ran out of resources. You've studied the Kornak situation? Threk asked, leaning forward. We've reviewed the available data, Okafor confirmed. And with respect, your approach won't work. The swarm adapts. It learns. It's a predator in its own way. You can't negotiate with it or wait it out. You need to hunt it. Hunt a machine swarm? General Kravik sounded skeptical. Hey, think about how predators hunt, Okafor explained. We study our prey. We learn its patterns, its weaknesses. We plan, we coordinate, we adapt our tactics. We're willing to take risks, to get hurt, if it means stopping a threat. The Kornak swarm is a threat. It needs to be hunted. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing a tactical analysis. We've only had 3 days to look at this, so these are preliminary ideas. But the swarm has patterns. It prioritizes certain resources over others. It responds predictably to certain stimuli. Those are weaknesses. A coordinated strike at multiple resource points simultaneously, forcing it to divide its attention, followed by targeted attacks on its replication centers while it's distracted. That would require ships to enter the swarm zone, Veshna said, her voice uncertain. The loss of life would be significant. It would require volunteers willing to take risks, Chen corrected. Humans would volunteer. We've done more dangerous things for less important reasons. And with your technology and our tactics, I think we could minimize casualties significantly. Threk studied the tactical display, his expression unreadable. You've been here 3 days, and you've already developed battle plans for our most persistent problem? We're predators, Chen said with a slight smile. We see a threat. We start planning how to eliminate it. It's instinct. Mr. Whiskers, apparently bored with the serious discussion, began climbing up Okafor's chest to his shoulder again. His claws pricked through the fabric of Okafor's uniform, but the scientist didn't even flinch. That doesn't hurt you? Tekla asked, observing the small pinpricks in the fabric. A little, Okafor admitted, but it's worth it. He's more comfortable up there, and his comfort matters to me. You allow a predator to cause you pain because it makes the predator more comfortable, Tekla said slowly. That's very strange. Is it? Okafor scratched Mr. Whiskers behind the ears, and the cat's purr became audible throughout the chamber. Or is it just what you do when you care about someone? You accept small discomforts because their well-being matters to you. That's true whether you're dealing with a cat, another human, or potentially an alien species. You're saying you'd accept discomfort for our benefit? Veshna asked. If we were partners, yes, Chen said. That's what partnership means. It means sometimes you do things that aren't optimal for you because they're better for the group. It means trusting others even when it's risky. It means caring about outcomes beyond your own immediate survival. She gestured to Mr. Whiskers again. That cat depends on James for food, water, shelter, medical care. James depends on that cat for companionship, emotional support, and honestly for a reminder that there's more to life than work. They're partners. They make each other's lives better. And you want that kind of partnership with us? Threk asked. We do, Chen confirmed. We want to contribute. We want to learn from you. We want to share what we know. We want to help solve problems like the Kornak swarm. We want to be part of something bigger than just Earth and humanity." There was a long silence in the chamber. Mr. Whiskers filled it by starting to groom himself, apparently unconcerned with the momentous decision being made around him. Finally, Threk spoke. "The council will vote. But first, I want to share something. 3 days ago, I was terrified of you, of humans, of everything you represented. You were Deathworlders, predators, potential threats. I had my hand on my weapon when you walked in, ready to shoot if you made any aggressive move." He looked at Mr. Whiskers, still contentedly grooming on Okafor's shoulder. "Then you introduced us to a cat, a small predator that you'd chosen to live with, to care for, to love. And I realized that any species that could look at a predator and see a friend, that could live with danger and choose gentleness, that could have the power to hunt but use it to protect, those were not monsters. Those were people worth knowing." He turned to address the full council. "I vote yes on Earth's membership, not because humans aren't dangerous, they are, but because they've shown us that danger and kindness are not opposites, because they've demonstrated the ability to form bonds across impossible divides, and because the galaxy needs their perspective, their skills, and yes, even their predatory instincts." "I second this vote," Veshna said immediately, "with one condition." "What condition?" Chen asked, suddenly nervous. "That Dr. Okafor brings Mr. Whiskers to at least some council sessions," Veshna said, and there was definitely amusement in her voice. "He has a calming effect on the proceedings." Laughter rippled through the chamber, from dozens of different species making dozens of different sounds. The vote was called, and one by one, species representatives registered their decisions. Chen watched the display, her heart pounding. Yes, yes, yes. A few abstentions, more yeses. One no from a species that apparently still couldn't get past the predator issue, but that was their right. When the final vote was tallied, the result was clear. Earth was approved for membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in various forms of celebration. Chen felt Okafor grip her shoulder, saw the joy in his eyes. Mr. Whiskers, startled by the sudden noise, dug his claws into Okafor's shoulder more firmly, but didn't flee. "We did it," Okafor said quietly. "We actually did it." "You did it," Chen corrected. "You and Mr. Whiskers." As the celebration continued, various council members approached the humans to offer congratulations. Many wanted to pet Mr. Whiskers one more time. The cat, overwhelmed by attention, eventually retreated to his carrier, where he could watch the proceedings from a safe, enclosed space. But even from his carrier, he remained the center of attention. The small predator from Earth, who had changed the galaxy's mind about humanity. Later, after the formal celebrations had ended and they were back on their ship preparing for the journey home, Chen and Okafor sat in the observation deck watching the council station recede into the distance. "Do you think they really understand us now?" Chen asked. "Or do they just think we're the crazy cat people?" Okafor laughed. "Maybe both, but I think we showed them something important. That being from a death world doesn't make you a monster. Yeah, that having predatory instincts doesn't mean you can't be kind. That strength and gentleness can coexist." Mr. Whiskers jumped into Chen's lap, circled 3 times, and settled down with a contented purr. "You know what I think the real lesson was?" Chen said, stroking the cat's soft fur. "It's that relationships matter more than categories. It doesn't matter that cats are predators, and humans are predators, and most of the galaxy isn't. What matters is that we chose to build something together, trust, partnership, family. And now we get to build that with the galaxy," Okafor added. "Think they're ready for us to introduce them to dogs?" Chen asked with a grin. "Let's give them time to adjust to cats first," Okafor replied. "Though I did receive a message from Ambassador Threk. He wants to know if humans have domesticated any other predators." "What did you tell him?" "I sent him a picture of a golden retriever." "How did he respond?" "He asked if it was dangerous." "And you said?" I said only to furniture and unconsumed food, and that they're extremely good boys. Chen laughed. This is going to be an interesting partnership. Mr. Whiskers purred louder, as if in agreement. In the weeks that followed, humanity's integration into the galactic community proceeded faster than anyone expected. The tactical analysis of the Kornak swarm was refined with input from galactic scientists. A joint task force was assembled, with human military advisors working alongside alien strategists. The approach that had seemed so alien to the Council, aggressive, risky, though predatory, began to make sense when explained by people they now trusted. Dr. Okafor became the head of a new xenobiological exchange program, teaching galactic scientists about Earth's ecosystems while learning about theirs. His lectures on predator-prey relationships and domestication were attended by thousands across multiple species. He always brought Mr. Whiskers, who became something of a mascot for the program. Captain Chen led the first joint military exercises, teaching alien species tactics they'd never considered because their evolution hadn't prepared them for that kind of thinking. She was patient, understanding, and gradually helped them see that predatory strategies didn't have to be about destruction. They could be about protection. And Mr. Whiskers? He continued being a cat. He slept in sunbeams and demanded treats at inappropriate times, knocked things off tables and purred when petted. He remained completely unconcerned with his status as the galaxy's most famous Earth ambassador. 6 months after the initial vote, Ambassador Threk visited Earth. It was his first time on a death world, and he was understandably nervous. The gravity was oppressive. The weather was chaotic. The sheer abundance of life, including predatory life, was overwhelming. Chen and Okafor met him at the spaceport, along with several other human diplomats, and of course Mr. Whiskers, who was getting very used to traveling. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador," Chen said warmly. "How was your journey?" "Educational," Threk replied. His 4 arms moving in what they'd learned was his gesture for polite unease. "I've been reviewing survival protocols for Death World environments." "You won't need them," Okafor assured him. "We'll keep you safe. Besides, we have a surprise for you." They led Threk to a vehicle and drove him through the city. The ambassador stared out the windows at the chaos of Earth. The weather systems, the diverse population, the vegetation growing in seemingly random places, the animals in parks and streets. "There are so many living things here," he observed. "It's like your entire planet is trying to grow over itself." "That's a pretty accurate description," Chen agreed with a smile. They arrived at Okafor's home, a comfortable house in the suburbs. When they entered, Threk stopped short. A large dog, a golden retriever specifically, came bounding up to greet them. It was enormous by galactic standards, with a thick coat of golden fur and a tail that wagged with such enthusiasm it seemed likely to achieve flight. "This is Cooper," Okafor introduced. "He's my dog." The dog, seeing a new person, immediately decided that Threk needed to be greeted properly. He sat down in front of the ambassador and offered a paw. "What is it doing?" Threk asked, not moving. "He wants to shake hands," Chen explained. "It's a trick, a sign of friendship." Slowly, Threk extended one of his 4 hands. Cooper gently placed his paw in it, tail still wagging frantically. "Good boy, Cooper," Okafor praised, and the dog's entire body wiggled with joy. Mr. Whiskers, not to be outdone, jumped up onto a nearby table to watch the proceedings with typical feline disdain for such enthusiastic displays. "You live with both of them?" Threk asked. He's still holding Cooper's paw, unsure how to disengage. "And 2 other cats," Okafor confirmed. "Would you like to meet them?" Over the next hour, Threk was introduced to Okafor's small menagerie. 2 more cats, Princess Fluffbottom and Chairman Meow, who regarded the alien visitor with varying degrees of interest. Cooper, who desperately wanted to be friends with everyone. a tank of fish, which Threk found surprisingly soothing. And in the backyard, several bird feeders that attracted dozens of wild birds. "You feed the wild animals too?" Threk asked, watching sparrows and finches compete for seeds. "Bird watching is a popular hobby on Earth," Chen explained. "People enjoy observing wildlife." "Even predatory wildlife?" "Especially predatory wildlife," Okafor said. Would you like to see the hawk that sometimes visits?" They spent the afternoon in Okafor's backyard, drinking tea and watching Earth's wildlife go about its business. Cooper lounged in the sun. Mr. Whiskers stalked bugs in the grass. Birds sang in trees. Squirrels chattered warnings from branches. "This is your normal life?" Threk asked eventually. "Surrounded by all these creatures?" "Pretty much," Okafor confirmed. "Though usually I'm at work, so they have to entertain themselves." "I'm beginning to understand something," Threk said slowly. "When we first learned about Earth, about humans, all we saw was danger. Death world, predators, weapons, war. We saw you as a threat because that's all we looked for." He watched Cooper roll onto his back, demanding belly rubs from Chen, who obligingly complied. "But you don't see the world that way, do you? You see danger, yes. You acknowledge it. But you also see beauty, potential, friendship. You can look at a predator and see a companion. You can look at a death world and see home." "That's true," Chen agreed, scratching Cooper's belly. "But it's more than that. We don't just see those things. We choose them. We could have exterminated predators on Earth. We had the capability. But we chose to preserve them. We could have conquered or destroyed when we reached space. But we chose to seek friendship. Those choices define you more than your capabilities," Threk observed. "Exactly," Okafor said. "Power isn't about what you can do. It's about what you choose to do." As the sun began to set, painting Earth's sky in colors that were considered impossible on safer worlds, Threk made a decision. "I want to invite you to the next major council session," he said. "We're planning the Kornak swarm operation. Your strategies are good, but they need human presence to execute properly. You understand the predatory mindset in a way we can't fully grasp from reports." "We'd be honored," Chen replied. "And," Threk added, looking at Mr. Whiskers, who was now attempting to catch a moth, "please bring your companions, all of them. The council has become quite fond of Mr. Whiskers, and I think they should meet Cooper as well." "Cooper at a Galactic Council session?" Okafor grinned. "He'll try to make friends with everyone." "Good," Threk said. "The galaxy could use more friendliness." As Threk left Earth that evening, returning to his ship and the safety of controlled environments, he carried with him a new understanding. And the humans weren't monsters. They weren't even really that strange. They were simply people who had learned to live with danger and chose kindness anyway. People who saw potential where others saw only threats. People who could be fierce predators when necessary, but preferred to be friends. And they had brought a housecat to prove it. Back on Earth, in Okafor's backyard, Cooper and Mr. Whiskers had reached their usual evening truce. The dog was sprawled in the grass, the cat curled up against his warm side. Two predators from a death world, choosing comfort and companionship over their instincts. Chen took a picture of them and sent it to the Galactic Network with the caption, "Earth Ambassadors, Off Duty." Within hours, it had been viewed by millions of aliens across hundreds of worlds. Within days, it had spawned a new movement among younger galactic citizens who began asking questions about their own assumptions. Why did they fear differences? Why did they avoid risk? What were they missing by playing it safe? The galaxy had expected monsters. Humanity had brought a housecat instead. And somehow, that small choice had changed everything. Years later, when historians analyzed humanity's integration into galactic society, they would point to many factors. The tactical innovations humans brought to long-standing problems, the cultural exchange programs, the technological collaborations, the joint military operations that finally contained the Kornak swarm. But many would argue that the real turning point was simpler: a small orange and white cat named Mr. Whiskers, who had purred his way into the hearts of a galaxy and taught countless species that danger and gentleness, strength and kindness, predator and friend, could all exist in the same being. And if a cat could do it, perhaps everyone could.